One day out from Tucker Carlson being fired from Fox, we are getting a little bit more clarification about either why he was fired, or at the very least, why high-placed sources in Fox want us to think that he was fired. So we kind of have to wade through this, but we do know that apparently there was a Friday night conversation between Fox Corp CEO Lachlan Murdoch and Suzanne Scott, the CEO of Fox News. They apparently decided then to do it and waited a few days to actually tell him. Mr. Carlson, he had last had his contract renewed in 2021, will apparently be paid out for the rest of his contract. He makes about $20 million a year, so he's going to be paid lots and lots of money without having to do what passes for work there. He apparently was only given about 10 minutes notice that he'd been fired before they announced it. So that's probably not gonna feel good to him. But we also do know a little bit more about the argument for why this happened. So some are saying that the fact that he so often and so enthusiastically used the most disgustingly misogynistic language to talk about people in the news, people like Sidney Powell, we found that out in the Dominion lawsuit. Just the culture of his studio was that talk like that, racist, wildly misogynistic, anti-Semitic, was just normalized. Also, he, as David alluded to, was highly critical of the execs at Fox. Basically, if they were looking for an excuse to fire him, it was made available. Alternatively, if you take the story that they're saying, they are now taking this sort of misogynistic work environment a little bit more seriously. They have fired people in the past as a result of that. They would have us believe that that is why they fired him. That it wasn't anything about the sort of messages he'd been pushing, but it was about the fact that he was potentially opening them up to massive liability, which we might learn more about with Abby Grossberg's lawsuit. I'm curious which, if any of these, you think are the true explanation.
Well, the other part about it is if they're paying him out the $20 million, there's probably an expectation in his contract that he will not work anywhere else for the balance of his contract, 2 years or 3 years. If Tucker Carlson really doesn't care about money, and apparently he is independently wealthy because he's the heiress to the fish fortune, whatever it is, then he could say, to hell with your money, I'm gonna go start my own podcast or do what Joe Rogan does or join Newsmax or whatever. So Tucker, I mean, he's got some options here, but I do think that for Fox, I mean, to me, it says more about sort of Rupert Murdoch that even Rupert Murdoch has some sort of standard. Even Rupert Murdoch at the end of his life, after all the damage that Fox has caused America and democracy the last 20 years, Rupert Murdoch looking back in his life says, okay, I don't want to go out as having poisoned democracy to this extent. I got to do something different. Okay, well, it's 20 years too late. I wish Rupert Murdoch had changed directions 20 years ago, but it's something.
Yeah. It's something. I wish that the universe worked in a way where, I don't know, bad people get what's coming to them a bit more. In my experience, that isn't often how things work out. But in my view, and obviously I don't have the long-standing, the personal relationship that you did. He was terrible. He was one of the worst people, I think, in American political media history in terms of his willingness to lie to his audience, to do great damage to the country. And I don't know. I don't even know that this is karma, because as you say, there are multiple roads forward where this makes him more free, more powerful. But at least it's something. It implies that, like, it's like with Trump and the lawsuits. I just want to believe, even briefly, that consequences exist, that bad behavior sometimes is punished. We so rarely have any reason to believe that. I don't know, maybe the idea that he really did seem to believe, and it was revealed in those Dominion texts, he thought he was bigger than Trump. He thought he was bigger than Fox News. And the fact that he thought that he was bigger than Trump didn't seem to hurt him. Trump did not turn on him. But he did seem to believe that he was bigger than the Murdochs and bigger than Fox News. And I can't imagine that they liked that. I mean, we can recall, I'm curious on your thoughts on this about his path going forward. Bill O'Reilly was huge. He got fired, and now he still technically has a show, but how does that matter? Glenn Beck was really big, and then he got fired, and now he still technically has a show, but how much does he matter? Is your read that Tucker is sufficiently bigger than they were when he was fired, that if he wants to reestablish himself independent of Fox, that he'll be able to do it? Or do you think that we might see that same sort of pattern reassert itself?
I think it's going to be the same pattern as sort of the Megyn Kelly, the Bill O'Reilly. I mean, the options are, okay, does he become the next Joe Rogan, who perhaps one of the most influential, podcasters there is, or is he sort of smaller scale, Glenn Beck, Bill O'Reilly, Megyn Kelly? And I see it sort of in the latter. I don't think Tucker Carlson does the Joe Rogan thing. But the one thing that I think another piece of this, though, is he has paved the way by telling Republicans that Donald Trump's indictment, this is your loyalty oath now. You have to defend Donald Trump. You have to be with Donald Trump to fight back against the New York indictment. He has essentially paved the way for Donald Trump's nomination in a way that no Republican media figure possibly could. So maybe moving forward, if Tucker Carlson wants to continue to be, ride that wave of Donald Trump, I suppose there's a lane for him doing that. Republicans should probably thank their lucky stars that Tucker Carlson is gone, and maybe there's a chance now that without such a Donald Trump cheerleader on Fox News, maybe the Republican primary becomes more competitive, but I'm not sure.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.